Welcome back to JBSports. I'm your host, Jonathan Burton, and today is Friday, so you know it's all about normal sports. Really, though, we're just going to stick to NFL just because there's so much going on. Playoff picture. You got a bunch of coaches and GMs being fired. You got stuff everywhere. So let's get into this. First, we're going to just do some playoff pick. I'm gonna predict the first round of Wildcard just because, one, it's fun, and two, I'm just going to want to get it out there. So we're going to start with AFC. First matchup is the Chargers versus the Texans. So this one is, I think, going to be one of the tighter ones, just because the other ones are kind of like bad for the other teams, and because they're like the middle seeds. Um, Texans, they've had kind of a rough last few games, especially the one against the Ravens where they only scored 2 points. So it's mm, it's hard because they've been on a little bit of a struggle recently. And for the Chargers, they've been pretty good. I think Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert have been an amazing head coach QB duo. I think this is really like the first year where Herbert has felt like himself and really felt good about his team. So I really like the Chargers' chances of winning this game. You got some wide receiver struggles sometimes just because you only have one really good one, which is Lattimore. He's been a great rookie for them. And, it's just Quentin Johnson, he does not get the job done. So you're really going to want to get another wide receiver for Justin Herbert just because he's been struggling, but they'll figure out those struggles. So I'm going to go, honestly, Chargers. I think recently the Texans have had just too much of a struggle to win this game and just a downfall at the end of the season. And the Chargers have looked pretty good. They've kept it close with some pretty good teams. So I'm going to go Chargers. Next one, Ravens Steelers. This one, it might be a pretty easy pick. I mean, the Steelers have looked awful recently. They lost to the Bengals a week ago, week 18, and they just looked terrible. George Pickens went in there, needed like I think 100 or something yards to make it to 1,000 yards, and I think he lost a yard or didn't have any yards at all. So him and Russ are not connecting. Their defense looks kind of bad, but not terrible. And just Russ was not on it at all. Russ looked really bad. And then you go to the game before that. I believe was the one against the Chiefs, or we'll just go to the Chiefs game. That was even worse. So recently, the Steelers have not been good at all. You have Russ telling them, like, let's win the next four, when really you're not going to win the next one. I'm going to take the Ravens just because the Ravens have been on fire. They killed the Browns with like barely anyone. I mean, of course, Lamar played most games. Zay Flowers will be a hit, but I don't think it's a big enough hit for them to lose. So yeah, I'm going Ravens. They've looked really good recently. They did pretty good in their second matchup against the Steelers. So I'm gonna go Ravens with this one. Next one, Broncos and the Buffalo Bills. I see a lot of people saying the Broncos will win this, but I just don't think so. The Bills, they played the Pats last week, and they just didn't really have their first stringers in. It was basically just the second stringers, third stringers in there. So it wasn't really too much of a loss. They just resting their stars. Bo Nix, he has had a really good rookie season. I've liked what he's been able to do for the Broncos. He's been way better. If you remember, like the second episode, I literally said how it was just going to be another mid QB for Denver, and he's been way better. He's blown my expectations out of the water. So kudos to him, but he's not going to get it done for his team. I don't think their offense can be good, but I don't think it's good enough to combat the Bills' offense because the Bills have just been on a really good level recently. They were the one team to beat the Chiefs when their whole offense and defense was starting, when it wasn't the third stringers against the Broncos. But they looked really good. They beaten the best teams. They did lose to the Lions, which I don't think they had their best game, so we'll see how it goes after that. But I'm going to take the Bills to beat the Broncos just because it just feels right and it's going to be the right thing. So next, we'll go to NFC. This is where it gets more fun for me just because, it's my team's on the side and the division is in it. So we're going to go first, Vikings, Rams. last week the Vikings did not look good against the Lions. It was a very rough game for Sam Darnold, rough game for the team overall. Their defense didn't do bad. They forced some turnovers. They kept up with the Lions offense for 3 quarters, and then it just snowballed, and then it was gone. So offensively, you're going to have Sam Darnold kind of do better at throwing the ball in the pocket when under pressure because he likes to roll out a lot. He's that type of quarterback. He likes to throw while rolling out, and it wasn't there. So teams are going to see that last game and be like, okay, if we want to contain Sam Darnold, that's what we got to do. They're just going to bring pressure on the outside in, so he just stays in the pocket and can't pass it well. You had a lot of touchdowns where he missed it because he overthrew it. So really, this week is going to be a big tester for Sam Darnold to get that contract from the Vikings because there's a lot of talk between do we keep Sam Darnold, do we let him go, do we keep JJ, do we keep them both? So we'll talk about that in a bit, but this is a big little conundrum they have. So Sam Darnold really has to prove himself against the Rams just because the Rams are a sneaky team, man. They have a lot of bad games, they have a lot of good games, they have a lot of surprising games, or it's just dud games where they win. You saw it against the Cardinals. They didn't play great, they still won. And the defense, they've had the rookie verse, he's been very good for them. So I think it will be a close game, honestly, just because for some reason the Rams go crazy in the playoffs. You saw last year that amazing game versus the Lions. It was a really entertaining game. Offense was going insane, and Cooper Kupp and Puka will probably go wild in the playoff game. So with my gut, I'm just gonna stick with the Vikings because I have a feeling that they're gonna work on that pocket passing a lot with Darnold and maybe get him kind of comfortable with it, hopefully. But I think the defense will try its hardest to contain the two, and the Minnesota Vikings will take this game. I'll keep the Washington game for last. Next game, Green Bay Packers versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Last week, you saw some injuries. Christian Watson tore his Achilles. You had Jordan Love get that elbow injury where he couldn't feel his finger. I think it was his pinky or something on his throwing hand. So you kind of have a rough little injury situation for them with their starting quarterback. They're one of their better receivers on the team. They just lost to the Bears, which there was an injury, so you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. But is Jordan Love going to be back to what he was in the last month? Because the first little bit, the Eagles beat the Packers in the first game when they both weren't really good. The Eagles didn't even look great, and they still won. And Jordan Love got injured in the last 20 seconds, so you can't really say it's because Jordan Love got injured. So the Eagles have already beat the Packers. So they both know how each team really started off with, and they'll watch film, so they kind of have a feel for each other. But the Eagles have been on a different level as of late. And with these injury reports, I think it's just stars getting rested. I don't think the Eagles fans should worry. Saquon's been great. You have Jalen Hurts being great. You have A.J. Brown finally clicking again. A lot of people took that one interview out of proportion. I'm a Commanders fan, and I'm saying that. So I'm going to take the Eagles. As much as it pains me to say it, I just think they'll outgun the Packers. Sometimes they have struggles in the playoffs, but I don't think it's one of those years. With the addition of Saquon and their defense being even better, I don't think it's going to be a problem for them. And then you got the Commanders versus the Buccaneers. My team versus the team that we've most recently beat in the playoffs. That was our last win, and we lost in the playoffs. That was the last playoff game. It is a little different because the last time they had Tom Brady, and this time they had Baker. But Baker has been playing on a pretty high level. They kind of recently both teams kind of looked bad in their recent games. You had Baker and the Buccaneers almost lose to the Saints. In the end, they got it together. Mike Evans got his 1,000 yards. Everything looked great for them in the end, but they had a little bit of struggle, and then the offense flurried at the end, and defense held up against Spencer Rattler. But you kind of have to wonder, is this going to be the same energy they bring the next week, or will it be better for them? And then same for my Commanders. We looked bad against the Cowboys in the first half. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. We looked really bad. Our CBs were leaving people open. The only one playing good was Mike Sandersville, sorry, Frozone, which he won a Rookie of the Week, which I'll talk about that too. but we didn't look good either. At the end, Marcus Mariota carried us to a win and then a game-winning touchdown drive, which all of that is great. I'm so happy for Terry. He broke a record, 12 touchdowns in a year, most for a wide receiver in Commanders history. But we looked terrible. So hopefully, all of our players will be pretty healthy. I think we're one of the most healthy we've ever been since the beginning of the season. So we got a lot of our players. They're going to be back. Tyler Biadasz, he has that ankle injury. He said it don't matter. He said he's going to be back no matter what. He said I'm playing. So a lot of these players just want to play. It's maybe some of their first playoff games, which for a few of our rookies and some vets that they actually feel comfortable. Jonathan Allen, he's been dying for this for years, so he's going to definitely play his heart out. All these players are really just, it's playoff time. They're eager to play. They're ready to play. So our offensive line, hopefully they'll be fully healthy to help Jaden Daniels, because we lost to the Buccaneers first game, but it's a different Jaden Daniels. It's a different Washington Commanders team. And we have Austin Eckler back. Hopefully he won't be on kick returns at all unless it's absolutely necessary, because that's where he's got both his concussions this year. So hopefully he's just a running, catching back for us, because he's been very good in that role. B-Rob, hopefully don't fumble. He can be good, but you just got to be careful about that. And Terry, he's starting to get it back a little bit. At the end of the game, he did well. Beginning, he did not. So hopefully he gets his groove back. And then the other receivers just have to pick it up. Alameda, don't drop the ball in the end zone when it's perfectly in your hands, for one. Diami, he's healthy again. He did very good in the last half of that game, so he'll be helpful. So I feel like we'll be back in shape. Hopefully we don't start it or play at all like we did against the Cowboys in the first half. Hopefully this is a game where we're finally like, all right, listen, we need to play well from the jump, because the story of the Commanders are one half would be good defense and good offense, and one half would be bad defense and bad offense. It plagued us the whole year against mid-teams or good teams. So this is a game where we finally have to be like, oh, all right, listen, we have to play good the entire game. This is playoff time. You don't have time to do shenanigans or struggle. So with this, I am going to take the Commanders. I might just be thinking bias, but I do think we have the better team with, Lattimore. And because we do have Lattimore back finally. This is going to be his third game ever on the Commanders, because he had the first game back against the Saints, which he did good on. Did very well. Nobody, not a single throw his way. Nobody even tried it. Eagles, I think he played good. There was a lot of stupid roughing the passer calls, and roughing the passers, pass interference calls, that shouldn't have been really called because they're both on each other. But hey, we still won the game. It's whatever. But Mike Evans versus Marshon Lattimore via PFF. 11 games played against each other. Lattimore has allowed 15 catches for 306 yards and 2 touchdowns on 29 targets. That is 1.4 catches per game and 27.8 yards per game, and 0.18 touchdowns a game. So there was a 4-game stretch from 2018 to 2020 where Evans had as many drops as he had receptions, 2. And Lattimore held him without a catch for 3 straight games over the span as well. So you see this, Mike Evans versus Marshon Lattimore. Throughout their time against each other, Marshon Lattimore has pretty much been the dominant factor. He's gotten in fights with Evans where Evans gets thrown out, and it's vice versa. So that's the matchup everybody loves. That's why a few people were upset he got dropped. Well, he got traded from the Saints to Commanders. They're like, oh, we won't be able to see Mike Evans versus Marshon Lattimore again. Here it is in the playoffs. How much better can it get? So you're going to have these two going at each other. Mike Sainristil, hopefully he can be frozen and take out their second receiver. So I just think the Commanders will hopefully be able to take out their offense as much as Marshon Lattimore is playing good. I mean, I think he can play well. There's no doubts he can be the Marshon Lattimore he has been against Mike Evans. Hopefully, barring the hamstring injury still nags on him. So they say he's 100% or really good. So hopefully he will play. There's really not been too many games where Evan has won against Lattimore. So this will be a very interesting game. So I'm going to go Chargers beat the Texans. Ravens smash the Steelers. Bills beat the Broncos. Minnesota Vikings squeaks it out against LA. Commanders beat the Bucks and the Eagles beat the Green Bay Packers. That is my wild card round predictions. I will go into the next round just for this next episode because I want to see how it plays out. I want to see how these teams can be. And just saying, if the Commanders have to go against the Lions, I'm already saying it's going to be a loss because that's going to be a rough game for us because they have amazing wide receivers, amazing running backs, but that'll be for next week if we do win. But more things to come. You're going to have a lot of openings for NFL jobs for GM and head coach. So going into the head coaches, the openings, Raiders, Jets, Jags, Bears, Saints, and the Patriots. Out of all these, I'm really surprised by the Patriots with Mayo. He was handpicked. He only got 1 year. I don't really think they had the best salary cap last year. This is the first time they'll have a good salary cap. But he got fired. He didn't do a worse season than last year. He didn't do a better season. So it's just right dead even. And I don't think he had the best roster. So I don't really understand the firing. I mean, a lot of people say he wasn't the best leader. He was a first-year coach. Give him a chance, at least a second year, to see how much he can grow from it. But in Mayo, I just don't think he had enough time to really get a chance at having a good team. So I was surprised. A lot of people would probably disagree with me. I know one Patriots fan I've argued with a while about this firing, and he likes it. So it's not my team, so I guess I shouldn't be too worried, but I think he should have got another chance. But out of the head coaching jobs now, Patriots, they just fired Mayo. Raiders, they just fired Pierce. Jets, Jags, Bears, Saints, they've been fired for a little while. And combined, they've all been a lot of weeks they've missed their head coaches. Jets, I think, has been the longest or something like that. There's a lot of people who have been requested. Johnson, the DC for the Lions, I forgot his name. Sorry, I'm blanking. McCarthy was requested by the Bears, I think. So, which the Cowboys denied it because, it is what it is. They just want a mid-coach, I guess. And a lot of these ones, I heard Salah maybe for like a defensive coordinator some places, but that's not head coach. I don't know why I just said that. But a lot of head coaches are being asked for other teams like DCs and OCs, but nothing's really going on yet. I think Ben Johnson has been in a few interviews already. I know Ron Rivera's name was thrown out there by the Jets. I think they interviewed him, which if they're smart, they wouldn't resign him. I think I just have like not a hatred, but like a disliking to Ron Rivera as a head coach just because it's time in Washington. But Ron Rivera as a person, he's totally fine. I love Ron, Riverboat Ron, but I just didn't like how the last 2 years ended. And then GM, Raiders, Jets, they completely cleaned house at head coach and GM, and then the Titans did not. Pierce with the Raiders, I think had a lot to do with, I think Tom Brady's starting to take a more of a stance in their decisions as a minority owner, but he is the GOAT. So I think he's going to have a lot of decision. I think he wanted like a more of an offensive minded coach that'll actually like talk to him or something like that. So we'll see what happens there. People have said Belichick. Belichick literally said in his North Carolina like first time being there when he's talking to the press that he wasn't leaving. So I don't think he'll leave and go to the Raiders, as many people are thinking, just because he already said he's not leaving. So there's been multiple swerves before, like Ben Johnson. We interviewed him. We thought we were going to get him. And then he just said, nah, I'm staying another year with the Lions just because he needed to finish his story or something like that, Cody Rhodes style. I don't know. But he said he had unfinished business or something with the offense. So he stayed there. But I think he will take a head coach job this year. I know, who was it? Was it Bears? There was some teams who wanted to talk about to Cliff Kingsbury about a job opportunity for head coach, but I want us to keep Cliff. I think he's proved to have a better season on the second half offensively than he has in past years. So I think Cliff is definitely good enough to keep. But and then GM jobs, that's gonna be different, but we'll see what happens there. But going in more about the Commanders, funny thing, Mike Sandstrom has won the Defensive Player of the Week. He got his belt, which now, first time in, I think, Commanders history, a offensive and defensive player has won Rookie of the Week for us. And the funniest thing is, everybody said, oh yeah, Bo Nix is getting it this week. Jane Daniels finally isn't in the running because he didn't play a full half and he looked bad. But then Yeah. Our Commanders fans probably, I think, one of the best fan bases in the whole league. We literally voted a million times, not actually, but we just all went together like Mikey's got to win this, and we won Mikey his belt. He didn't even have his best game. I think he's had better games. He did have some great plays. He had some passes batted down in the end zone. He saved a touchdown, and one where he like the guy was wide open and Sanders just made it there in crazy time and broke it up. So he had some great plays. Not his best game, but he still had great plays in it. So he still deserved it, but he didn't have his best game. I think the Eagles game was definitely better. He's had some better games, but it is what it is. I'm still happy for Mike. Frozone got his NFL Defensive Rookie Player of the Week, whatever. I'm stumbling on the words, but it's whatever. Um, and then some other things. I mean, you have just NFL like honors. I mean, I'm gonna have an award show for that. Hopefully, I think I'm gonna try because I already have really everything chosen. I just have to find a time to record it, but that will be fun. But we're just gonna get offensive rookie of the year. I'm just gonna say it now. It's Jane Daniels. I will have the award show, so maybe it'll be different. But Jane Daniels has, I think, locked in a few weeks ago. I mean, Jane has been insane for this team. He led the if we don't have Jaden Daniels, we're not 12-5. We are 4 in whatever. Like we would have sucked this year. Okay. Jaden Daniels has turned this franchise around. What we do need to do is get some people around him because offensive line, it's first stringers are good. We just need depth there and depth in a few other places. But we'll get more into that with a mock draft episode. But Deshaun Watson, we'll get into that because I did say I was going to talk about him. He has re-ruptured his Achilles, so the Browns will probably take a QB in the draft. So with the re-rupture, one, he's probably going to be out for the entire 2025-26 season. So you're not going to see him. So really, the Browns have no other choice than to pick a quarterback. It just depends on what the Titans pick because really, I think the Giants will miss out on a quarterback just because they won that one game against the Colts and screwed themselves over. So you're probably gonna have the Titans and the Browns picking QBs, which I mean, I know that Shedeur said he wanted to play. Well, he had those cleats that were the New York Giants customized ones, but he's probably going to be picked up by the Browns or the Titans. I do think Cam Ward is a little bit better of a prospect. I think he has a higher ceiling than Shedeur, but floor level, he's probably a little less. But honestly, I do think the Titans might pick Cam, and then Shedeur will go to the Browns, which leaves the Giants just hanging. So they're gonna have to figure out a quarterback. I mean, you have Kirk Cousins who could possibly be picked up on a vet minimum contract because he's getting paid so much by the Falcons. So you could see him get paid the Russell Wilson treatment, which that's a whole nother thing in itself. With quarterback for them, you don't know what's going to happen next year. Russell Wilson was reportedly maybe get a 3-year, 100 mil contract, but recently the way he's played, it's not looking like he'd get that contract. He's definitely played at a higher level to get them the wins, and it was good he did play for them those few games because Justin Fields is kind of still getting into that like groove of being with an actually good team. So I'm happy Justin Fields got the opportunity, and you could argue that he didn't have to get benched just because two of those out of the 2 games he lost, one of them was kind of on the defense and one of them kind of on him, but he was having a little struggle getting the ball on the field and end zone. But you had to give him that chance, and they didn't let him really develop there. So Steelers quarterback is kind of a question. There's a lot of quarterback questions around the league too that like I didn't really think about. Titans, you're not going to rock with Mason Rudolph or Will Levis as your starting QB anymore. Browns, you're not gonna rock with double Achilles ruptured Deshaun Watson. Jameis Winston has proved that he can't be a long-time starter, and Robinson, yikes, he's definitely not a starter or NFL level on at least on this team. Which so those first two Steelers I talked about, it's kind of like is Russell Wilson your future or future for the next 2-3 years, or are you gonna finally give Justin Fields the keys and let him go and let's just let him run wild and try this offense out with him, or Are you just going to find someone new? Maybe Justin Fields leaves and goes somewhere. Then you have the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, is he coming back? I don't know. Really, the Jets have a chance to maybe do something smart. Maybe like draft a QB in the second round, like maybe Milroe. I mean, Milroe kind of didn't do the best this year, so he's kind of got moved down in drafts. But because Beck is returning, Drew Aller, which terrible pass yesterday when he threw the interception for game. Um, you're gonna have a QB maybe like Milroe get drafted second round, and then you keep Rodgers to help him, but that's a whole nother conversation. Vikings have a good QB situation, I think, where they have two QBs that can perform, which you're gonna test Sam Darnold out, but with McCarthy. So McCarthy, he did have the knee surgeries, which kind of begs the question: is he going to be able to play like you thought he could play a year ago when you drafted him? Is there going to be problems with him in a certain offense? I think if he before surgery, he probably would have been the first QB picked in this draft. So if the Giants really wanted a higher level quarterback, they could trade for him. But I don't know if that'll happen just because of questionable injuries. But today's medicine, a lot of people can come back from a lot of different things. So he might be fine, which then you just have to see, can he play well in the NFL, which I think he can. So you could see him getting traded. Honestly, if Sam Darnold does well, I don't really see the wrong doing of having them both. I mean, you're going to have two good QBs, and if one's playing bad, you just put in another good QB. Because your QB situation next year, if you keep him, both, if Sam Darnold does well, will be Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy, and then Daniel Jones. I think they'll probably keep him another year or two, which that's not a bad QB room. You have Sam Darnold, who's done really well this year, has shown flashes of greatness. JJ McCarthy, a premier rookie from last year's draft, which he can be really good. And then Daniel Jones, it might be a situation like Darnold where he needs to go to a different offense and then he'll flourish. I mean, as much as the Giants fans blame him for a lot, the latter half of the year, Daniel Jones getting rid of him, it didn't help him. It really just made him just as bad or worse if you look through the games. So Daniel Jones could be a QB like Baker or Darnold where he has to go to a different system. It'll help him more. So that's a good question, QB situation to have for the Vikings, but there's a lot more situations to go around, and it's going to be a QB carousel, I think, for a next year or two, just because Watson, he got his contract restructured. He'll be there till like I think 27, something like that. But you're going to have a lot of QB situations to go around, which some vet minimum contracts might be handed out with Kirk Cousins, which I don't know. I don't know what team would pick him up yet because Browns, honestly, you can pick between him and maybe draft like a Shedeur. I mean, not sorry, him and get Travis Hunter, or you can pick up you can pick up Shedeur and then wait later for an okay wide receiver, which a lot of teams have a lot of question marks. Honestly, I think a lot of teams have a lot of needs, and this isn't the. I think it's a very top-heavy draft, but that's neither here or there. There can be a lot of players that surprise you, but there's a lot of injuries to a lot of top players in the top positions. So we'll see what happens there. But this has been JB Sports. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be ready for the awards for the NFL of the 2024-2025 season. Be ready for a mock draft episode, and then one more episode probably would be the predictions for Royal Rumble. I know this isn't sports, but it's also wrestling, so if you cross over, you can see them both. But thank you guys for watching, and bye. Subscribe.